Okay. 5 seconds ஆரம்பிச்சு.
Investment in knowledge is the best interest. A very good afternoon to one and all present here. On behalf of our Zoology Department of Guru Nanak College, Chennai, I welcome you all for the international guest lecturer on the topic Integrated Pest Management using Food Trade. Now, I request our beloved Principal Sir, Dr. N.G. Raghunandha Sir, to address the gathering and welcome our participants.
Okay. Good afternoon, one and all present here. Esteemed Chief Dr. Bharathan and proud Head of the Department of PG MSc Zoology, Dr. Bhuvaneshwari, my dear colleagues, Organizing Secretary Dr. Mr. Sendil Vairavan, Dr. Venu and other colleagues who are attending this program, and my dear students. A hearty welcome to you all for this wonderful beginning of this association lecture activities. My best wishes to the department, and I welcome all the participants of the day. A hearty welcome to Guru Nanak College through the online program. Sir, Dr. Partho, I remember of those days where you spent in Guru Nanak College, that too, especially in GRI. Yeah. Those are days, wonderful days. And we still the memories where those olden days also.
Yeah, thank you.
And now this initiative by the Department of PG Department of MSc Zoology with a wonderful lecture by a eminent person, that too our proud alumni of Guru Nanak College. And my wishes, best wishes to the Department of MSc Zoology for the initiating a wonderful program. With these few words, once again, I welcome all the participants. And in spite of that, if time permits, sir, you can have once again, you can have a visit to our campus again.
Oh, surely, I will do that.
Yeah, see a lot of changes in the campus, in the aspects of infrastructure, facilities, and also in many other research also. We can have a long collaboration, and it should continue. Right.
Sure.
Thanks for best wishes to the department. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your inspiring speech. Next, I would like to call Dr. Venu, Assistant Professor of Zoology Department, to introduce the resource person.
Good afternoon, one and all present here. It is great privilege to introduce today's resource person, Dr. Partho. Received his BS, MS, and PhD in Zoology from University of Madras, Chennai, India. For his doctoral thesis, he worked on insect physiology and natural products. He joined a private organization like Sikh Science Foundation in India as a scientist and worked on development of various bio-rational crop protection products, including plant-based biopesticides, insects, pheromones, and microbial larvae. Most of the products were commercialized during this tenure. He left India in the year 1998 to work for a number of companies on short stints, mainly focused on urban entomology. He worked on Singapore government-funded project on urban pests, and then in 2005 moved to Philippines to set up his own consultancy work. His close association with the pest control industry, covering work such as research and development, training and business development, has allowed him to edit and write number of books, all published by CABI. He is also a prolific speaker in international conferences across the world and has spoken in National Pest Management Association, International Conference on Urban Pests, and major conference in Asia Pacific region. He is a regular contributor of articles to various international organizations. Presently, he serves in the panel of judges for the award of doctoral degree for 2 universities in India in the subject of economic entomology. He is also a technical consultant for International Pest Control magazine. We are happy to have you here, sir. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Venu, sir. Now I'd like to welcome Dr. Partho and take over the session.
Thank you very much. Just give me a couple of minutes to shift. Please.
Okay, can you continue to hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. I'll share my slides now. Okay, you can see the first slide, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So let me start. So I would like to wish to thank the management of Guru Nanak College as usual, and of course the head of Department of Zoology, Dr. Raghunathan, and staffs of Department of Zoology for this invitation. It's quite a pleasure to come back to Guru Nanak College and revive my memories of those days I spent in the campus, and now I'm here as a resource speaker for this this occasion. I've selected to talk on a topic which is very close to me, and I've been working in this field for the last almost 15 to 18 years now. So obviously, this is the subject which is very close to my heart. So I'm going to talk about a subject called integrated pest management using food baits. And slowly, I have organized practically about 80 odd slides, and it might take about 45 minutes to 1 hour to go through them one by one. I hope we find this subject quite interesting to work on food baits. Now, whatever I'm going to present today actually is all contained in one of my article I wrote for the British Pest Control Association magazines last year, or I think it was in 2020. And the topic was insect baits and its baiting, a standalone tool to control urban pests. So if you can go to the link below, which I have given down there, and if you click there, you can possibly have the entire presentation in a very brief and summarized way. But of course, I do have lots of other information which I can share in case there is any interest. Now, right from my start, since I left my master's degree and went to my PhD, I was quite interested to study, which was focused on understanding the various ongoing conflict between man and insect. In fact, my thesis in MSc in Loyola College was about insect pest control, and I started my entomology right there in that campus in Loyola before moving into my PhD program, which obviously was in entomology, and I worked with insects and insect control. So obviously from the day one in 1980s, late 1980s, I have been very closely associated with entomology in the sense of how do we control a pest and pest control. Obviously, my initial work was related to crop protection, but slowly in early 2000, I moved my interest from crop protection to urban entomology, and slowly you will know through my slides how interesting and how challenging is urban entomology. That means insects which are closely associated with household and urban environment. So basically, we divide the study of entomology into agriculture entomology, which is crop protection, and other one is household or urban entomology, where we talk about insects which are closely associated with humans, in cities, in structures and buildings and stuff like that. So this is the major division of entomology, and I've chosen to speak on a subject which is close to urban entomology. Now, insects bring a plethora of diseases, allergens, damage, injuries, phobia to human lives. I mean, we all encounter insects in our lives. Either you find stored product pest in your rice and dal and lentils, or mosquitoes been biting you, or termites in eating away books in the library. Insects are there in urban environment all over. So they are known for a number of diseases. Obviously, whatever examples I gave you, where insects are basically damaging us in a quite lesser way. But the major issues with insects and humans is the number of diseases they spread. And of course, mosquitoes-borne diseases, which are worldwide, bring worldwide fatalities and killing. They kill humans simply by spreading diseases as a vector. So disease, allergens, spreading of allergies, lots of different type of damages, bites are quite important to human lives. And this is where I deal with them on a daily basis. Now, the economic loss from insects is estimated to be in multiples of billions of dollars. In the worldwide, if you really compile the amount of damages insects bring to our agriculture, to health, to other sectors, it goes into billions of dollars. So obviously, insects are become a extremely important, what you call a source of a problem for humans on Earth, and we spend millions of dollars in controlling them. Now, there are different sectors which need to protect themselves from insect pests. And for example, of course, obviously, I mentioned about diseases spread by vectors like mosquitoes. So health sector is very important. And health sector covers basically mosquitoes and flies. Most of these insects are called vectors because they transmit disease from one individual to another. And of course, today, if you look at the WHO report, a large population of people die annually because of mosquito-borne diseases. So health sector is extremely put to pressure by insects and insect pests. Of course, we have the food sector where agriculture comes in. The insects are known to damage crops. You name a crop, anything. It can be root crop, it can be vegetables, it can be fruits, it could be cereals. There are major insect pests which are damaging these crops, and obviously they bring down quality of the plants, they bring down productivity and things like that. So obviously they become very important in crop protection. Storage, stored products. Actually, when we have a bumper harvest, we do store lots of product. You go down to any of those National Food Authority go downs, and you will see all sorts of pests attacking corn and rice and wheat. So they also become extremely important pest when it comes to storage pest. Of course, it's not only food storage. Even if you want to store files or museum items in museums, they are also damaged by different types of pests. Manuscripts, ancient scripts kept in various storage forms have been damaged by insects. So they're also very important pests when it comes to storage. Housing industry also faces a problem from pests like termites and various types of beetle which infect wood and wooden material, cellulosic material. So the housing industry also needs protection. The amount of termite attacks in India is practically on the lower side. But if you come to Southeast Asia, where I live, in Thailand, countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines, termites bring extensive damage to buildings and structures because we use lots of wood in structure, constructing houses here in this part of the world. And of course, the hospitality industry, which covers the sectors like hotels and restaurants. They are always been bothered by cockroaches. Bed bugs in hotels are very, very common. ants in hotels and in kitchens, in restaurants are a problem. So if you look at the entire sector, these are five major sectors. Insects are number one pest, which bring damages, bring down productivity, and causes concern. So that's how important are insect to urban environment. So these are some of the common pictures I am showing you exactly. Even this you encounter in your house. For example, your clothing's been stored in a trunk, and you open it a couple of months and couple of years, you will see damages caused by certain type of cloth moth or cloth beetles. Artifacts from museums or furnitures damaged by drywood termites. You can see those fine powders all over the place. That's caused by a powder post beetle or a drywood termites. Bed bugs and mosquito bites are very common to us all over this area. So these are sometimes infective through diseases. Sometimes they are not spreading any diseases like the bed bug, but they do cause annoyance, disturbance, anxiety, and you need to take some sort of treatment. Damages caused by termites to your house, building structures, furnitures are very common. So pest damages and injuries affects us all in some form or other. Wherever you stay, in whatever standard of house you stay, whether it's an A class standard, a B class standard, any part of the city you stay, you encounter insects some way or other. So obviously, to control insects, we have something called insecticide. These are nothing but chemicals which are specifically designed to kill insects, and insecticides are the main methods of controlling insects. And if you look at insecticide, we have different groups of insecticides in the market. It starts with phenylparazole, nicotinides, pyrethroids, organophosphates, and there are natural products which are basically from plant extracts in the market. So different groups of insecticides are available in the market, and which are used for different types of control. So insecticides are very important. As possible, that's the only way we can control insects around, whatever be the insects are. Now, one of the biggest problems of insecticide is definitely insecticides are, however, coming under extremely intense scrutiny by both public and by regulators, simply because health issues, in particular to the pediatric population, particularly children, are very much susceptible to insecticide exposure. And as the new developments are taking place, new methodologies are being developed, new tools and machines are coming up. We are detecting ppm and ppb, parts per billion to parts per billion level of insecticides been present in food, in mother's milk, in beddings, carpets, in wall hangings, in paints, in practically every item we use today. We have found traces of insecticides and pesticides, simply because we have sophisticated tools and technologies to detect them. So eventually this accumulates in human body, in animal body, and eventually it can cause health issues. Obviously, insecticides are also a concern for environment, simply as a pollutant. When we spray pesticide indiscriminately in some environment, the rain can wash those pesticides, and it can all go into the river, into lakes, and kill frogs, kill non-target organisms like fishes, dragonflies, algae, things like that. So it's a concern for the environment also as a pollutant. And of course, insecticide can also cause harm to non-target organisms, simply because of a toxic overrun. You are spraying insecticide for a particular pest, but other non-pests are also getting affected by that. So that is known as a non-target organisms, and they can also be affected. So that's why insecticides are coming under lots of scrutiny, and you might be reading about it causing pollution in our environment. Remember, a couple of years back, maybe if I remember 10 years back, Pepsi and Coca-Cola were caught up in a mess of they have pesticides in the bottle. I mean, there was a hue and cry, and there were lots of media reports and analysis and evaluations going on. I think I remember it was 10 or 15 years back. These big giants were caught up in pesticide pollution issue, but I think they have come out of it now. So insecticides are really a great concern to our environment and health and other areas. So, as an alternative to this conventional insecticide application, food baits are becoming popular for control of certain pests. And this is what my topic is all about. We'll be talking about something called food bait. And what are these food bait, you will understand as I go along. So food baits are now coming up, and I'm focusing my work for the last 15 years on developing food bait. And my company is one of the premier company in the world now developing food baits, and we are successful in controlling various type of pests in various part of the world using most of these baits. Now, what are food baits? Food baits, by definition, are synthetic food. So that is one thing you have to understand. These are synthetic food. These are not food which are taken from natural products. Okay, we have synthesized this food in the factory. So they are nothing but synthetic food containing attractants, nutritional elements, and a specific insecticide. So this is how a food bait is defined as. Now, the amount of insecticide used in food bait is hardly exceeds 1 gram per kilogram. If you take any food bait in the world for any pest, the amount of insecticide we use in a food bait does not exceed 1 gram per kilogram. So obviously, it is extremely safe, simply because we are using a very, very low dosage of insecticide. Whereas a conventional spray contains possibly 50 gram to 500 grams of insecticide in 1 liter or 1 kilogram of the formulation. So it shows exactly how much less insecticides are used if you are using food bait in your pest control program or work. Food baits are most suitable for, that's one of the limitation. Food baits are not available for all pests. It doesn't work for every pest. So for the food bait to work, your pest has to be cryptic, should be cryptic in the sense they should be not visible. They're most of the time they're spent in hiding, cracks and crevices. They do not come out. They're not visible. For example, ants, and termites, and cockroaches. When you go to a restaurant, you hardly see them. But just put off the light and walk away, and you come back after 1 hour, and you took a flashlight, you put on the light. There are cockroaches everywhere, crawling on the table, on the floor, on the food preparation area. So these are known as cryptic pests. They remain hiding, and they just come out at certain times. So it's often difficult for us to control them. So food baits work when your pest is a cryptic pest. Indoor pest. It's very easy to work on indoor pests simply because you're contained in an area. So food baits are not exposed. Food baits are sensitive to extreme sunlight, extreme rain, so they may not work. So obviously, if your pests are indoor, inside a house, they can work and function very well. Food baits are also very appropriate for all the pests which lives in close proximity to humans. So that, for example, pests which are inside my house, I don't want to spray a chemical. So obviously, it is useful to use a food bait because we are reducing the amount of insecticide used in human proximity and bringing down the chances of contamination and health effect. Food baits work when your pest is a social insect very well. Of course, the food baits can work on non-social insects also. For example, housefly. Housefly is not a social insect, but we have developed food baits which work on houseflies. But the best pests where food baits work wonderfully are for social insects or insects which lives in colonies or groups like cockroaches, termites, ants, and things like that. Okay, but the last one is very important. Most of the pests which we are talking about, particularly in indoor situation as well as outdoor situation, have already acquired lots of resistance against insecticide. Today, if you spray an insecticide on a pest, they don't die. Only 50% population will die or 70% population will die. The 30% population will never die. They will just escape and develop resistance. So next time when you spray chemical, nobody dies because you have a huge buildup of resistance in the insects. So this is the major problem which is really bothering our industry. The pests do not die as the appropriate dosage which is written in the label. Now these insects have become resistant to those particular insecticides. And that's why we talk about rotating insecticide, bringing in new insecticide in the market, or rotate an insecticide which frequently so that the resistance is not built up. food baits work wonderfully to overcome resistance. So we have given a system to pest control operators and pest control managers where we say that for the first quarter, 3 months, you can spray chemicals, but on the next quarter, next 3 months, you can shift to food bait and you can bring your insecticides again back. So we call it as a chemical rotation and to overcome resistance. So food bait work wonderfully when you work on resistant populations. Now, all of this is possible. Development of food bait and advancement in food bait is possible because of developing. This is possible because of advancement in sensory physiology. So we have lots of advancement, right from electron microscopy, a special type of infrared microscopy. We have sophisticated instruments like a gas chromatograms and HPLC. These have helped us to really advance our knowledge on insect physiology. And knowledge of insect physiology is a must to develop a good bait. Food bait is synthetic bait. So to develop a synthetic product against a natural product, we have to really master the entire sensory physiology of an insect. Because we're talking about something which is a factory made. Initially, the termite love the natural wood. It loves your furniture. But when I'm going to develop a bait, my bait has to be synthetic and it has to be better than the furniture, the wood used in the furniture. So I have to really master the chemistry and the sensory physiology of insect far better to develop such a synthetic food. So that's a very big challenge. And we have done it. Of course, you have to generate lots of data sitting in the lab and observing those insects. And it takes hours and hours of observation in artificial light, natural light, different environmental conditions, indoor, outdoor, high humidity. You have to continuously lock in lots of observation what the insect does. Maybe in a particular lab situation, the insect responded very well. That is not good for just commercializing the product. You have to observe the same observation consistently over different environment. Because one housewife will buy a bait from a market and she will use it in a different environment, while as another gentleman will buy the same bait from the market and use it in a different environment. So they are not trained entomologists, but your bait has to perform uniformly. So we need to generate hundreds of hours, thousands of hours of observation, and we do that. We not only use trained entomologists to observe, we also even ask common man to come and observe, because their observation and our observations differ, their interpretation differ. So to make a commercial product to successful, we need an observation from a layman as well as a trained entomologist, and we have to coalesce that. So in this particular picture, I just asked my assistant in the warehouse to come and say, hey, what do you see? So I need his observation to match an entomologist's observation. So this is very, very important and critical for development of a bait. Most important among all tests is an olfactory test. These tests work on terrestrial insects. Subterranean insects use other type of cues to locate food. So doing olfactory tests is important, because as soon as the insect comes out from its own hiding, whether it's a termite or an ant or a bee or a housefly or a cockroach, the first thing it will do is it will look for an orientation towards the food. And that's why we have to perform olfactory tests. If the cockroach turns on the wrong side, it will never locate the food, because you have placed the food on the left side and the cockroach comes out from the hiding and turns right, it misses the food. So olfactory tests are very important. We want the cockroach to come out from its hiding and orient right away towards the food. So we have to do hundreds of tests to see every time the cockroach comes out, it turns left towards the bait, towards our food bait, not somewhere else. So we have to generate lots of olfactory tests. This is a simple design of a wide shaped tube we use to do lots of olfactory tests in the laboratory. This is a simple picture of exactly what olfactory tests look like in a lab condition. We have given an attractant in two dispensers. One is on the left and another on the right, and we just leave a bunch of insects in an arena, in a controlled environment, and we see the orientation. This shows something in that particular lure on the left is highly attractive compared to what is in the right. So obviously this is a simple test of olfaction and attraction. These observations are very, very important before you finally accomplish manufacturing a synthetic bait. So orientation is number one. Then comes the nutrition, and then continuous feeding. Those are very important. So this is a picture exactly how to develop different type of stimulants, feeding stimulants for insects. I'll just give you an example. We do it for practically every insect before we develop a complete bait. Now, insects are attracted to specific chemical cues. It could be food related, it could be mating related. But when we develop food baits, we always look for food related chemicals specifically. And food baits uses food related chemicals to draw the pest to a designated area and make them ingest the bait. So obviously food baits always use chemical cues which are present in food, not in the mating areas. Now, history of food bait is very, very old. It's in fact, it is not new, but we can trace back the history in 1957, where it was used for 1950s. They used it for controlling fruit flies in Hawaii. They used a combination of protein and attractant to control large-scale invasion of fruit flies in Hawaii, which was a pest in banana and certain type of fruits. So in 1950s, food baits was already used for crop protection, eradicating fire ants and different type of fruit flies. So the whole history of food bait is practically quite old. But the modern food baits work started only 30 years old, and it is still developing into a mainstream segment of insect pest control now. So it's not very, very old. It's practically 30-year-old only. The reason for large-scale commercial interest in food bait was due to the need to reduce insecticide use. I mentioned that already to you. Insects are getting resistant, so we have to overcome resistance in the pests. So for that, we need food baits. There are lots of complaint of job failures. That means the pest manager goes to a field, to a site, he does the necessary pest control, but he doesn't get the results. So there are a lot. This is what we call as job failures. And of course, cryptic nature of some pests. Some pests cannot be controlled by simple spraying, because when you go there, they are not there, and when you come out, they come out. So these are known as a cryptic pests. So they cannot be controlled by conventional spraying. So we need something else. And of course, need for target-specific control. That is one of the critical thing about food baits. They are species-specific, because we are developing a food for a particular species. So when you use a food bait for a cockroach, you will not kill flies, you will not kill mosquitoes, you will not kill termites. Only cockroaches will be killed. So these are very target-specific. So that's one of the 5 important reasons why large-scale commercial interest in food baits have caught up into us. So development of bait formulation, a number of important factors are needed in developing a food bait. Most important is, of course, a bait matrix. Bait matrix is the carrier, the one which carries the bait. For termites, the carrier is a cellulose. We use an alpha cellulose as a carrier, and there are lots of other ingredients like attractants and insecticide which goes inside. So first is to get a proper bait matrix. So that is the challenge. Now, the challenge is to develop a bait practice more acceptable than regular food. That is the challenge. Okay, I know termites feed on cellulose, so any cellulose will work. So that is where we need to find out what type of cellulose will work. Cellulose is a generic term. Now, we have found out that there are 100 different types of cellulose. It depends on where you're getting them from, which tree, which species of tree you're getting it from, which source you're getting them from. But termite shows differential behavior towards them. They don't accept all of them. They just feed on a couple of them. So that's why even though cellulose is known to be the food for termites, we found that there are different types of cellulose. So we have to really streamline which cellulose or what type of cellulose they are preferring to. So it becomes quite a challenge for us to find out the ideal cellulose, source of the cellulose. So that becomes our number one challenge. Of course, ants prefer sugar or fat, but what type of sugar? Is it sucrose, glucose? What type of sugar, complex sugars? It is not that sugar. Of course, you throw some sugar from your kitchen, ants will come. But then all species of ants don't accept that. Maybe common ants in your kitchen will accept that. But when you take it to the field, those ants don't feed on sugar. They're possibly looking for oil and fat. So when you're developing a comprehensive ant control bait, you have to combine sugar and fats and other type of matrices. Before that, you build up a total, a complete bait. Simply for cockroaches, different type of bait matrices are available, which we have developed for cockroaches. Food bait should perform consistently in different conditions, including environment and presentation. That is the challenge. Yes, you have a good bait. You have a good bait matrix. You have developed it. Should it work in a rainy situation? It should even work in a hot situation, hot condition. It should work in a humid condition. It should work outdoor. It should work indoor, dark, in lights. So environmental tests is also very, very important. You might have a good source, but it should also work in different environment and different presentation. Different presentation means sometimes you have to put the bait inside different type of stations, contraptions. So, for example, you have taken a cockroach bait and put it in a plastic container, and you have put the plastic container next to the cockroach harborage. You see the cockroaches do not eat the bait. Even though they like the bait, they do not eat because of the presentation inside a plastic. So we have to find out the way to present the bait. So that is also a challenge. Simply because there is a food, the cockroaches will not run and go there. I think the best example of this presentation is rat in rodent stations. You put the food bait in an open floor, the rat might eat it. Put it in a bait station, a plastic bait station, the rat will not enter the bait station because it has a phobia. It has a phobia against new items. So presentation is very important for providing food baits to pests. So we have done lots of research exactly, and we have to streamline exactly how to present those bait to various insects. They should perform on different species under one group also. That is very important. When I talk about termite, it should work on all termite species. When I talk about cockroach bait, it should work on both German cockroaches, American cockroaches, Asian cockroaches, Oriental cockroaches. There's no point in developing a bait for German cockroaches and which is not accepted by Oriental cockroaches, because a client does not know what is a cockroach. You and me understand a cockroach is by species, but a house owner don't understand what is a species. To him, a cockroach is a cockroach and a termite is a termite. So we have to find out a bait which will be acceptable to various species under one group, that is cockroach. Similar to termites. There are different types of termites. But when we develop a bait, all different types of termites should eat the same bait. That's another challenge. So there are a number of challenges to develop a proper bait. So another thing which is important, the second paragraph I mentioned here, the ideal bait matrix thus would need not only to be nutritionally adequate for sustained feeding, but also should be essential chemical mixture to orient the insect towards it. That is another challenge. The bait should not be just an attractant. It should also be adequately nutritionally adequate, because we have found out that insects not only get attracted, initially they get attracted because of the smell, but they feed on a long term if it's nutritionally adequate, because they have to grow, they have to mold, they have to interfeed other group members. So if there is no nutrition, the insect will feed and abandon that food. So to make them feed continuously for a few hours, few days, or a few weeks, like in question of termite, the bait has to be also nutritionally adequate. Okay, it is not only an attractive bait, it has to also contain amount of protein, amount of sugar, amount of carbohydrate, tracer elements, so that the termite will say, that cockroach will say, okay, this is nutritionally adequate, it's helping me, I can mold, I can grow. So it's also another challenge, that the bait has to be nutritionally adequate, not only just attractive. The fact, I spoke about bait placement already before. So as I mentioned, the fact that German cockroaches are not attracted to bait over a distance further makes the bait performance dependent on proper placement of the bait. So that is another challenge. Yes, the German cockroaches like your bait. In the laboratory test, it shows that it feeds very well. It orients towards the bait. It's nutritionally adequate. But German cockroaches by nature does not travel 2 meters from its hideout. So if you place the bait 2.5 meters or 3 meters away from the cockroach harborage, that bait application is a waste. So bait placement becomes quite challenging. So you only an expert can understand exactly how to place a bait properly. So that becomes one of the main issues when it comes to application of baits. This is a picture where I'm showing exactly how the bait work. A termite ate the bait. For example, in the left picture, I have a plastic station where I have presented my termite bait, which is a cellulosic bait, the white stuff you see in the center, and I have got wood also there. So after 1 week, when I came back, you can see on the right picture, the entire white material, the termite bait has been totally eaten, and they left the wood. That means my synthetic bait outperforms the natural food in a choice test. This is how your bait should be. So it has to really be far better than its natural food. Termite should be able to feed only the bait, not the wood. If the termite feeds 50% of the wood, 50% of the bait, then your bait is not yet ready for commercial production. It has to be 100% your bait, not the original food. This is how we develop bait. When you offer cockroaches bread or leftover of a biscuit or sugar, and then you put your bait, it has to eat the bait. It should not go towards the biscuit or the bread or the sugar crystals. It has to eat the bait first fully. Then only your bait is known to be successful. If the cockroach eat little bit of your bait, little bit of the bread, little bit of the biscuit, then your bait is only 50% good. So this is the challenge in developing a real food bait. So lots of work has to be done really to master the whole thing. The other very important thing in food baits is the choice of an active ingredient. What happens if you choose an active ingredient, which is a repellent, which kills the insect right away? So if the insect is killed right away, the other group members, either it is a cockroach or a termite or any other insect, will get a bait shyness. They will see that other insects are dying, they will get away. We do not want that. So what we have to do is we have to choose a particular active ingredient which is non-repellent. It will not repel and can act as a slow-acting poison inside the body. Then only it will work, because we want the insects to be affected over time, in slow times. That's why your choice of an insecticide has to be very good. And we, as I will show in the next few slides, that why we choose particular type of active ingredients only in developing insect baits. So we just to summarize this slide, we mostly choose chitin synthesis inhibitors. So if you look at all the baits developed commercially today successfully in the market, all of them mostly are chitin synthesis inhibitor. They are growth inhibitors. So they eat those food baits over long time, after a few hours, a few weeks, and few months, and this chitin synthesis inhibitor goes inside the body and stop them from molting. So most of the baits which we use in the market have chitin synthesis inhibitor, CSI. So these are known as IGRs, insect growth regulators. That's the category of insecticide which is used in most of the food baits. So I will quickly discuss 3 commercially successful bait formulation, and I'll show you lots of pictures exactly to make you understand exactly how these baits work. My company is the one who developed these baits, and we are marketing them throughout the world now as successful baits. So why they become so successful? Simply because you will know how they work. Obviously, the first and the number one bait we have developed is for termite. Termite live in the soil. They are subterranean insects. They are below the soil, and they come out from the soil and attack houses, buildings, structures, and damage all types of wood. So obviously, you know the biology of termites, the biology of insects. But the question is, these termites are not in hundreds and thousands. The colonies go up to size of 500,000, 1 million, up to 20 million. So these colonies are massive under the soil. So developing a termite bait to kill the entire colony is quite a challenge. So we of course, the different type of processed cellulose were sourced, purified, and tested, and then we found the best cellulose coming from a particular species of plant, from a particular segment, how it's been used. So we nailed down on this purified form of cellulose, which is shown in the right side of this picture here. So we chose this particular after countless tests, and we found a different type of species of termite accept that cellulosic bait in different region of the world. We have tested in the Philippines, in Thailand, in Malaysia. Even we have gone to India to test this particular cellulose in different type of species present around the world, in Australia, South Africa, parts of Japan. So this one single cellulose bait was accepted by all species of termite. So that was quite an achievement for us. We have named this particular bait as Externa Requiem termite bait. This is how it's been branded. If you want to know more about this product, you can always Google this and you can find this information. We have used a CSI or chitin synthesis inhibitor in this particular bait, which is known as chlorfluazuron. It's an IGR, belong to the family of CSI, and we use 1 gram per kilogram of the bait of this chlorfluazuron. So this is mixed up in a clean white cellulose, which is shown in the picture here. This is how the bait looks like. It looks like a like atta, or it looks like a flour. But it is not a simple cellulose. It is a complex cellulose. It has got additives, feeding attractants, and active ingredients all put together. We mix it with water, and then it becomes something like a mashed potato. What you can see there, this is how the bait looks like, and this is what we feed the termites. We use a clean bucket to prepare the bait. We use water without chlorine. We do not smoke when we are making this because nicotine deters feeding. So we do not allow the technicians to smoke. We have to wear disposable gloves so that we don't sweat while we are preparing the bait. We don't touch it, and things like that. These are the precautions you need to take. And this is how the bait looks like once it's prepared. It's something like a dough before you make a chapati or stuff like that. Something like that. That's the consistency will look like. So wherever you find termites, what you do is you just put this bait. Just let the termite feed on this bait. So here is, you can see one of the technicians here. He's fixing a plastic station because he found termites feeding on the door jamb there, on the door frame. So he is putting a plastic contraption. He's screwing it with a screwdriver so that he can fill it up with the bait. And here you see the picture how the termite bait has been filled up one of the stations. Then we lock the station with screws, and after 4 weeks to 8 weeks time, you can come back and see how the termite has fed the bait, and then the bait has gone into the colony. And termite has a behavior of prophylaxis, and they have the behavior of interfeeding through mouth-to-mouth feeding, and through that the bait has traveled from the one termite to another, and it spreads to the entire colony until the colony is eliminated. It's a slow process. It takes about a couple of weeks, which I'll come down to that. But there are also situations where we need to protect a house against termites. So we have this type of stations which we put in the soil around the house. So these are nothing but a plastic station which has some wood to attract the termite inside. And once the termite goes inside, we put the bait in the center. So this is how it looks like. For example, this is your house and you want a termite protection work from us. What we do is we go there and we install this type of contraption around the house, every 5 meters apart. And whenever there's a termite coming, trying to attack your house, they are intercepted by the stations. And then our technician will fill the stations with the termite bait. This is a very regular process. We can also do work in a concrete situation. This is a guy who is trying to install a concrete station in a concrete area. He's drilling a hole through the concrete so that he can access the soil. And then we install a station. We prepare a station under the concrete, and this is how it looks like. See, this is the concrete cap. We put this cap on top so that you can walk on top of that area. And it's a steel cap to protect the station, as well as people can use this area. And this is how it happens. After a couple of weeks, when you come back, and a couple of months, you come back and you open the area, you can see the termites feeding. And that means you have termites about very close to your wall in your property. So we prepared the bait It's the same way we have shown you the picture. We fill the station with the bait. The termite feeds the bait, just like this picture showing, and then the colony is eliminated over time. So this is how the termite bait works. This is a picture of a house where how we install stations. You can see there are stations. The round structures on the sides are nothing but in concrete or in-ground soil stations. We install them in a termite protection program, and then these are monitored on a monthly basis. This is how a station looks like when it's installed in a house. This is how a technician installs a station around the perimeter of a house. Now I'm going to show you an actual demonstration exactly how the colony is killed. So we are going to kill this particular colony. This is a termite mound. There are possibly 500,000 to 1 million termites under the soil. And I'm not going to inject any chemical. I'm not going to destroy this mound. I'm just going to feed them with the bait and show you exactly how a colony can be eliminated simply by feeding the bait. Okay, so this is the colony of termite, and we have installed stations around it, and you can see the bait there. The termites will be feeding on this bait. So for 12 weeks, the termite was feeding on this bait, and every 2 weeks we go there and refill the stations. Every 2 weeks we go and refill the stations. For 12 weeks, the feeding was continued. And week number 16, we destroyed the mound because there was no more feeding to see exactly what has happened. So week number 16, we destroy, we dissect the mound, we open the mound, and we don't see any termites active inside the mound. Usually you will see hundreds and thousands of termites moving around, but this mound was practically empty. And we see dead termites all over inside the mound. Now, understand that I did not inject any chemical. I did not destroy the mound. I didn't do anything. I just fed them with the bait. This is the result. The termite dies in the colony by simple feeding. And you can see dead termites all over the mound. And then we went to the queen chamber to see exactly what has happened. You can see a dead queen. And you can see some of the workers still alive there in the nest. But you can see how the body has become dark. Pigments are there. The body has become black with pigments. That means the bait has already transferred from the station to their body, and slowly they have been killed. So this is how a bait works in the field. So using this particular technology, we have controlled following species in different geography countries. The red ones are in the Philippines. The others are located in other parts of Southeast Asia, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, in Australia. There are some species which are also in India. So we have the same bait has walked along and all species. These are all subterranean species. Okay, they live in the soil. If you take the average, the amount of time taken to kill a colony is between 3 to 12 weeks. For high termites, it goes to 6 to 16 weeks. So between 3 to 16 weeks is the time, depends upon the size of the colony. Sometimes it takes longer simply because the colony is very large. It contains 1 million, 2 million, or 5 million individuals. So for the bait to go to everybody, it takes time. So that's a slow process. But the good thing is it kills them surely. So we have published all of this work in very peer-reviewed literature. I personally, I was the first one to write a paper on this particular type of bait, which we have developed. It was accepted in a well-known journal sometime in 2011. After lots of tests, we got it published there. There are other scientists also who have used the same bait and published papers. This is a very famous bunch of people from Malaysia, experts in the field of termite research. They have also used the same bait and proven colony elimination. So we have lots of paper which has been published on this bait by people from all over the world, from Australia to, and the one which is number 9, marked in red, is actually a study done by Dr. B.S. Rawat from Roorkee. I think it is Central Building Research Institute in Roorkee. He has also used our bait to prove how it kills local species in India. So it's a well-known bait now, not only in when it comes to publication, but in actual use. Now, what is the real significance of this baiting? Yes, it's a good product. It works very well. It makes lots of money for the people who use it. It gives a comprehensive protection. But see, this is this one. If you are using chlorpyrifos or imidacloprid or fipronil or bifenthrin as an active ingredient to protect a house which is 100 square meter in area, if you look at the commercial label direction as for treating the soil, you will be using nearly 2 kilograms or 1920 grams. How much of insecticide you are using for a 100 square meter house? 1920 grams for chlorpyrifos, 200 grams for imidacloprid, 117 grams for fipronil, 150 grams for bifenthrin. Look at the chlorfluorocarbon data. It is so small. You are spending only in milligrams by baiting. So you have cut down the amount of insecticide you use to such a level, and you have got a fantastic results. You have eliminated the colony. The colony will not come back. Whereas in this kinds of soil poisoning, soil injection, the termite can come back. So you have to retreat the house after 3 years, after 5 years, whatever is the depends on what type of brands and what type of products you're using. So this is the major plus point of using a baiting system. You cut down the amount of insecticide to drastically. The second bait is a sprayable bait for cockroaches we have developed. It's a controlled release technology. The brand name is Atrithon. Now, this particular formulation contains different types of microcapsules inside. Now, this is a slow release formula. What it contains is, it contains two types of microcapsule. One microcapsule contains food flavor and food. The other microcapsule contains a active ingredient called fipronil. So these microcapsules are actually floating in a water media, and we use it for spraying over cockroaches. So this is a sprayable bait formulation. So it is this is available in a liquid form. You take a certain amount, like 10 to 20 ml of this formulation, mix it in the water, and you spray and see the results. I'll show you some picture exactly how it works. So just remember, this contains two types of microcapsule, one containing food flavor, another contains an active ingredient called fipronil. So a technician takes this formulation and spray in strategic areas wherever he thinks cockroaches are active, and we call these places as target zone. So this is what it is. When you spray the formulation, just give a spray, you can see the cockroaches are aggregating together. They are coming close to one another in this aggregated form. This is what we want. What happens is, when you spray this formulation, cockroaches come there, they walk over a surface, and they get contaminated. They get contaminated, and then they die straight away. So what is attracting them to this area is food flavors. So that is how it works. We are making the cockroaches come from their hideout and walk in a surface where they can be killed. So this is how it looks like. You spray the formulation.
So sorry to interrupt you, sir.
Yes, Sandel.
So we have 5 more minutes. We have another program, round 3. So
Okay. I'll go fast. I'll go quick. So this is how it happens, how it travels, and then it kills the cockroaches as it travels. This is the picture here exactly. I've sprayed the wall. Cockroaches have been drawn away from the areas because there is an attraction, food attraction, and you can get the killings exactly like this. I don't want to show much of this because we have some lots of data exactly how lethal this formulation is, how effective this formulation is. So this is how. Similarly, we have developed gel baits, which is also a food-based formulation here. You can put a simple drop of formulation here, and then you can see if the cockroach feed on them and they can get killed. Obviously, the reason is how much amount of insecticide you can cut down to get an effective formulation. We can use just 0.075 grams of formulation against 12 grams of spray chemical. So we have cut down the amount of insecticide drastically to kill this formulation. The next formulation is an ant bait formulation. It's also a food-based formulation. It is in a granule formulation, so you can use them and see how the ants are getting attracted to that formulation. We just spray them, we just sprinkle them in various vantage points, and ants are getting attracted to that. So it contains a carrier, attractant, and an insecticide, as I mentioned to that. Of course, different ants are attracted to different type of things, sugar, protein, and oil. So we have a combination. We use the combination when we develop an ant bait, oil, sugar, and protein, because ants are attracted differently to different formulations. Slow-acting stomach poison is used, different type of active ingredients. And this is how the ant are attracted to field crops and other areas. and how it works. The principle is the same. The only thing that pest is a different one here. So we sprinkle the ants in a dispenser. Ants carry them one by one, carry them to the colony where the queen ant is there. They feed among themselves, and then the entire colony is brought down. So this is exactly one of the trials we are doing on pineapple plantation, where ant is a big pest in the Philippines, and we are field testing the product here. So this is how the ant has affected the pineapple plantation, and we broadcast these granules to kill the ant population. So similarly, we have developed a food-based bait against houseflies. So how does this bait work? The most important thing is the number 2, transfer effect or secondary effect. Of course, the insect which is feeding the bait will die. That's the principal insect which is feeding. But they also spread this bait through interfeeding, like in colony of ants, the cockroaches, in termites. We have something called a transfer effect, because the primary insect, when it feeds, it passes off this bait to the other individuals in the colony, and this secondary kill is very, very important for bait to work successfully. So that is how principally a bait works in the field. Similarly, we are developing baits, food-based bait for pigeons, which are feral birds. We are not killing the pigeons here, but we are putting a sterilant, a biosterilant, so the female pigeons will not develop egg. And that's how we will control the population of the pigeons. And we have also developed a bait for rodents. You can see a rodent trap here. We have a bait there with the arrows marked there. They're nothing but polymers containing food attractants, so that bait rodents are attracted to that. And then there is an insecticide toxin there also in this polymer. So the market of food baits are very extensive, and it is going all over that. So in conclusion, food baits have conclusively helped implementation of IPM principles through following reasons. Species specific, you understood that. Less use of insecticide, I have given you examples. Safer, obviously, we have cut down the amount of insecticide. It helped overcome resistance, because it's food bait. We are making the insect eat something. And of course, it is sophisticated, because you can monitor them, you can scientifically study them, and you can also get dramatic results which can be documented properly and make your client happy and justified, your work justified. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and I'm sure that we are running short of time. I was just told it. So thank you again. If you have any questions, you can quickly ask, or you can ask me later on through an email. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, for this informative and precise presentation. And our participants have posted several questions in the chat box. I will read it one by one. Similar to food baits, are there any phenomenal baits that could be used for other pests like that of agriculture or any other field, sir?
There are certain baits available for agriculture, like for ants attacking fruits, mostly fruits, dragon fruits and pineapple and banana. Ants are very big pests. So we have food bait for that type of pests. Yes.
Okay, sir. Endosulfane is one of the best yield-giving good results, but at the same time, it is toxic to mammalian glands. Is there any insecticides that can be replaced without harming the animals and humans?
At the moment, for 20 years, I'm working in the field side. I haven't found a way to get away from insecticide. In fact, I can see over the time, the amount of insecticide use have really gone up rather than going down. So there can be various reasons. The pests have gone up, the climate change, expansion of urbanization and crops. So there are various reasons. But insecticide use have really gone up. We haven't found other alternative.
Okay, sir. Are there any possibilities of using low-cost homemade DIY formulations that can be used and developed similarly, sir?
Oh, you're choppy. I can't really hear that question.
Sir?
Sir, are there any possibilities of using low-cost homemade formulations?
No, absolutely not. Homemade formulations are dangerous. In fact, we know that in India they say that this plant has this effect, that this plant has that effect. In fact, plants are more toxic than the insecticide. We do not know them. We just simply know that they are green. They are coming from plants. We think they are safe. On long term, they possibly are more dangerous. They may not eradicate the pest properly. So you will still continue to have the problem. But judicious use, scientific use, correct use can definitely give you the results. And that's where things are working. Yeah.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your expertise and answering the questions in detailed manner. Now it is time to propose the oath of thanks, and I'd like to call Dr. Morgan, Assistant Professor of Zoology, PG Department, to propose the oath of thanks.
Thank you very much.
I deemed it a privilege to propose the word of thanks for this international guest lecture on integrated pest management using food bites organized by the BG Department of Zoology, Guru Nanak College, Chennai. First and foremost, I would like to thank our resource person, Dr. Partho Tank, for readily accepting our invitation and sparing his valuable time with us. Our sincere thanks to General Secretary and Correspondent Mr. Manjit Singh Nair sir, our beloved principal Dr. M.G. Raghunathan sir, for their constant support to conduct wonderful programs like this. I am very much grateful the convener Dr. S. Bhuneshwari, Madam, Assistant Professor and Head Department of Zoology, Guru Nanak College, Chennai, for her motivation and encouragement. Thank you, Madam. I profusely thank my department staff members, Vice Principal, Shift to Dean Sciences for their supports. Special thanks to the GNC Media Center for the technical support. I thank all the participants for their active participation. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Morgan, sir.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank all the participants for your patient listening, and the feedback form is provided in the chat box. Do fill it before and 5 p.m. Certificates will be provided by tomorrow evening. Thank you, sir.
Oh,
Okay, thank you, sir.
thank you, sir. Thank you, Santal.
Thank you.